Are you thinking, how can I profit in this crazy market correction or market crash? You hear people saying it's going to drop 10%, it's going to drop 50%, 40%. You hear people that are saying everything is swine, it's going to bounce back up. So, what is actually going to take place next week? What can you do if you've been out there in the last couple of months and you've missed out on a huge Bitcoin rise when it went to 20,000? And when we were saying, hey, the crash is coming, a lot of people were still buying, so they missed out on the opportunity to short and capitalize on the Bitcoin drastic fall to 5,900. A lot of people just now missed on this huge drop in the United States stock market. If you're new to markets and you're curious, well, how do I actually profit from the market fall? There is a great website you can go to. It's called marketcrash.money. It lists all the reasons why the markets could crash even further, and also gives you a chance to schedule a free consultation on how you can get started with trading options and weekly options in particular and profit for huge gains. Now, let's take a look at what's actually happening, what possibly could happen next week. This is a graph of S&P 500 and clearly illustrates here that markets do fall much faster when they go up. We literally just wiped out in a matter of a week what the markets were building on since September, October. But temporarily, my personal market projection, again, that just expresses my personal view, and I happen to be pretty accurate at nailing the Bitcoin drop, and I happen to be pretty accurate at nailing this drop right here. So at this point, I do not think the markets are going to go any lower, at least not next week. As you can see here from the graph, S&P fell pretty rapidly through the 50-day, this blue line right here, which is the 50-day moving average. It actually tried to go up and kind of sustain that level as it done here in the past, you can see. But it didn't work out, so it dropped further, and it briefly touched the 200 moving day average, which is this orange line right here, and it rapidly bounced off of that. Now, the magnitude of these moves that we have seen in the last week to 10 days, we haven't seen this kind of action in a very, very long time. So to me, it is a sign that the markets are turning around, but it does not necessarily mean that they just automatically going to keep going lower from this point forward. As a matter of fact, watching the Friday action in the late afternoon when the Dow went from 1,000 points in the negative to finishing 300 points positive, and of course you can see the same percentage move here in the S&P. It really tells me that the banks started buying, and coincidentally, they started buying right about the point when a lot of indexes were hitting this 200-day moving average. Now, Dow did not hit the 200-day moving average. It got pretty close to it. So to me, that tells me that potentially it will retest it. Now, I'm going to pull up the graph for you right now, and we'll be able to see how much further lower could potentially Dow go here. So here's Dow Jones, and as you can see, it was moving close, but still yet its 200-day moving average is at 22,794. Okay, so it still has potentially some room to go. But this huge bounce right here on a Friday really tells me that all the indexes could move higher back to the 50-day moving average, which for Dow would be 25,098. Okay. Now, this is the move that I would be looking at indexes and stocks in particular like Amazon. And of course, this is one of the best stocks, so typically would have a greater chance at bouncing a lot quicker than some of the other individual stocks. But what we notice in Amazon is the same interesting thing. It actually bounced all the way back to its 50-day moving average, and that's what's found some major support and bounced back off of that. Now, Amazon was down as low as, $1,260 in a trading session, and it finished at 1340 level. So this is a huge bounce, and typically in me witnessing some of the market corrections over the last 12 years, uh, when they bounce back so rapidly and on a huge volume is what they did, you can typically expect the market over the following few days to actually go higher. And if we look at some stocks in the sector, such as Apple, and Apple is a good indicator of what some of the other technology stocks might be doing. And the reason I'm looking at some of the common names here is because a lot of people, a lot of institutional investors are heavily invested in this stock. So when the markets go down, when you hear all these margin calls, of course there's some very heavy selling that is happening. Some of our options that we were able to trade on these levels in the last week has literally produced returns in the range of 2,000 to 2,800%. So if you're interested in learning how you can profit within a matter of weeks when markets are volatile, it creates an insane opportunity to capitalize on some of the huge percentage returns. So if we look at Apple, look what's happening here. Okay, so it actually, as everybody knows, it's been falling for quite some time over the last couple of weeks. But look at this huge bounce. It briefly reached 150 level on Friday. But look at this huge bounce again. It bounced all the way off of it, all the way to 156.41. And actually, right before it closed there, it was trading above 157. So when we're looking at a huge move like this, they were buying it on very heavy volume. Okay, that tells us that there is definite potential for Apple to go higher. And of course, if Apple moves higher, a lot of technology stocks are going to be looking at this move, and they typically would move along with Apple. If we look at, and so by the way, Apple did close in the positive territory, almost plus $2, almost 189 positive on Friday. If we look at Microsoft, okay, and the reason, again, I'm looking at these famous names is because it gives you a good measurement of what's actually happening in the market, because so many people are heavily invested in the stocks. There's probably not a fund out there that does not own Facebook or Apple or Microsoft. So those are good indicators to how the rest of the technology sector is going to be acting in the coming week. So here's what we've got, okay? Microsoft ended up being positive on Friday, almost 4%. And look at the volume, okay? They were buying it on very heavy volume. And it's actually crossed the 50-day moving average on the way up. So it's actually sustaining its level here very well. So looking at this picture, it appears to me that the markets have really done this correction move of about 13 to 14%. So again, if we go back and look at the S&P, this correction right here from 28.75 to the 25.39, that's around 13-14% move there. So that puts us in a correction, in a healthy correction range. So I do expect a lot of buyers to start coming in at this level. Now, once we hit the 27.19 level, once it's going to try to retest that, I would really be paying close attention to the volume and what's actually happening around here. Now, there is a good chance we may be side trending here for a little bit of time. In other words, this move higher may not be as rapid as the move lower. But ultimately, over the next month, I do expect the stocks to try to make a move higher. And for those of you that feel like, oh my God, I have missed out on this move, I could have made thousands of dollars, I could have made hundreds of thousands of dollars, the opportunity is still there, because what I'm actually going to be looking at doing once the stocks, the indexes are going to be reaching these levels here, I would be looking at possibly observing if they're going to move higher and retest these levels of 28.75 in the next couple of months. And if they don't, or they're going up here on a very low volume, I would be looking at opening short positions again on what I would call, or typically is called in the financial markets, as a double top. So I'm going to be looking at a potential of a double top forming here and I'm going to be looking for certain indicators and certain factors to calculate whether it's actually a double top or whether the market could go higher. And this would be an excellent point to open the short positions again and profit on another move similar to this, only the second time I think it's going to take us much lower than these levels that we have just recently observed. At that point, I think the markets could really drop 40 to 50% lower from there by the end of the year. So if you missed out on Bitcoin rise, don't worry about it. Don't feel bad about it. If you missed out on Bitcoin fall, don't worry about it. If you missed out on this huge move down in the stock markets, don't worry about it. This year is just so amazing. It's going to be full of awesome opportunities to short the market, to go long in the market. If you want to get in the trading game, I have been doing this for 12 years. I have students that have made thousands of dollars. I can really help you. All you got to do is schedule a consultation. It's not expensive. It's only 89 bucks. And you can decide what you want to do from there. But I literally take students, I guide them hand by hand for some of the daily market moves. I participate in helping you set up your account. I do a lot of things that you wouldn't typically gain through maybe watching an online course or an online video. And it's not done in a group setting. It is a one-on-one type environment to where I gear everything based towards your skill set. So if you're a beginner, I can take you from A to Z in a matter of the month, and you'll have the sufficient knowledge to be able to look out for certain things, for certain patterns, for certain market behaviors, look into the psychological aspects of trading. So we'll be doing a lot of different things. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be ultimately a perfect trader all of a sudden in 30 days, but it will save you a ton of money on making a lot of mistakes that you could be making on your own and therefore costing yourself thousands of dollars. So invest in yourself. Start with a consultation, which actually is not just a consultation. I will be going with you over top 3 things, the basics of where you can start trading the markets and start becoming profitable. So a system that's based on simple 3 things. You don't have to be a math wizard. You don't have to be a mathematician. You don't have to know tons of things about the market. But if you focus on those 3 simple things, you can become profitable very, very quickly by trading options. So if you're interested in doing that, if you're interested in capitalizing on the next market move up, down, sideways, book your session. Simply go right here to marketcrash.money. Read up some of the information here. There's a ton of videos in here. There's a ton of information. There's some examples of some of the trades that I have made. You can read about the Bitcoin crash. You can read about the stock market crash 2018. If you click on how to profit, that's where you can book your coaching session and you can get started. So how to take advantage of the stock market crash before it takes advantage of you, if that has been on your mind. If you have been asking yourself, I've been doing really good on buying stocks and selling them for a profit. I'm interested on knowing how to short the stock market. In other words, how to profit from the stock market fall. This is a great place for you to start and get going in the right direction. So visit marketcrash.money and schedule your consultation. Thanks for watching, guys.